The girl with the golden hair from ABBA has charmed generations and will most likely continue to do so. Let's take a look at her life and later what makes her iconic. Agnetha Faltskog was born in Sweden in 1950, the oldest of two daughters her family had. Her father was highly interested in show business and music, so maybe he played a part in Agnetha writing her first song at the age of 6. When she turned 8, she started taking piano lessons and performed in a local church choir. She grew up with the music of Leslie Gore, Aretha Franklin, and Connie Francis. As a teenager, she decided to leave school and focus on building a music career. By the mid-60s, after her previous endeavor as part of a musical trio failed, Agnetha was performing with the local dance band. The leader of the band sent a demo to a record company, but the record producer was only interested in Agnetha. Although split in her decision, she gave in and signed a record deal to start her solo career. Her debut single, Folly May May, reached number 1 in Sweden. Most of her next singles would go on to become hits in Sweden, and she continued on making many folk park tours, only now as a solo artist. Around this time, she met a German songwriter and producer, Dieter Zimmermann, with whom she'd become engaged to. With success in Sweden being established, Agnetha was now trying to make a splash on the German music market, the largest one in continental Europe. Dieter also promised to make that happen. She recorded several songs in German, but they failed to achieve popularity. She also felt that the ideas of the German producers were horrible and would soon return to Sweden and end her engagement with Dieter. While Agnetha was always involved in the writing of the lyrics and music of the songs, she would take almost complete control over those aspects with her fourth studio album, released in 1971. Here, she wrote the music for 11 out of the 12 tracks and the lyrics for 6 of them. But if you look at the credits, a familiar name appears among the co-writers for some of the songs: Björn Ulvaeus. The two had met several times in the late 60s and would eventually fall in love. He became the producer of her albums, and the two would marry in July of 1971. By then, Agnetha had also met Björn's writing partner, Benny Andersson, who would play the organ at their wedding, and Benny's girlfriend, Annie Frid Lyngstad. Agnetha and Björn would go on to have 2 children together, one born in 1973 and the other one in 1977. By 1972, Agnetha, Björn, Benny, and Annie Frid had decided to perform together as a group. The quartet tried their chance at the Eurovision Song Contest in 1973 with Ring Ring, but failed to qualify. Convinced the contest was their way of making it big, they returned the next year with Waterloo, and the rest is history. For over half a decade following their win, ABBA would dominate record charts around the world with songs such as SOS, Dancing Queen, Take a Chance on Me, Gimme Gimme Gimme, A Man After Midnight, and The Winner Takes It All. During the ABBA years, Agnetha also released a solo album in Swedish in 1975, which enjoyed critical and commercial success in her home country. She and Björn would divorce in 1980. In 1981, Agnetha released a Christmas album, which became her highest charting album on the Swedish chart. The next year, she would release a duet with Thomas Ledin, Never Again, which did well commercially. Denying rumors that ABBA split, Agnetha released her first English-language album in 1983, Wrap Your Arms Around Me. It was a success in the Nordic countries, topping the Swedish and Norwegian chart. The title track and the Here Is On would go on to have commercial success in continental Europe, while a third single, Can't Shake Loose, peaked at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100. Her follow-up album, Eyes of a Woman, was released in 1985, but didn't enjoy the same amount of success, and only the first single, I Won't Let You Go, would chart. 1987 marked the release of 2 solo albums, a children's album with her son, recorded in Swedish, and an English studio album, for which she traveled to California. The English studio album, called I Stand Alone, would become the best-selling album of 1988 in Sweden, but did poorly internationally and didn't produce any major hits. Following the underperformance of this album, Agnetha took a hiatus from the music industry, which would last for 17 years. She would marry again in 1990, but divorced 3 years later. The 90s were a terrible time for Agnetha in general. A year after her divorce, she would be hit with worse news. Her mother had killed herself by jumping from the balcony of her apartment. Around a year later, her father would pass away. Agnetha would start dating a Dutch fan in 1997, but broke off with him 2 years later due to his strange, obsessive behavior. He would start stalking her, sending her letters, calling her, and appearing on her property. He was eventually deported to his home country in 2000. The man would still return in the years to come, including in 2003 and 2005, despite being arrested and banned from entering Sweden. In 2004, she returned to music with a cover album of 60s music, My Coloring Book, which became a hit in most countries, including Sweden, Denmark, Germany, and the UK. She appeared with her former bandmates at the Swedish premiere of Mamma Mia in 2005 and at the premiere of the film adaptation 3 years later, the first time ABBA was caught on camera in 22 years. In 2013, she released her 5th English-language album, A, which became her most popular one internationally. In 2021, ABBA officially reunited to release the album Voyage, their first in 40 years. It was a critical and commercial success. So, knowing all this, what makes Agnetha Faltskog iconic? Before talking about the obvious things, I would like to draw attention to something that is often merely a footnote in ABBA's history. Agnetha wrote the music and lyrics of many of her Swedish songs. In fact, out of the 65 songs that appeared on her Swedish studio albums, she wrote the lyrics for 28 of them and the music for 29 of them, basically half of those recordings. Even with Joni Mitchell or Nina Simone, women writing their own music was still pretty rare in those days, especially compared to the larger degree of artistic independence that female artists enjoy today. Agnetha also produced 2 of her albums and co-produced a 3rd one. Again, something quite rare even nowadays. She was less involved in the creation of her English-language albums, producing only her album of covers and writing the music and lyrics of only 4 songs, including the top 10 hit I Won't Let You Go. Okay, now back on track. ABBA. Despite being active for little over a decade, the group would go on to become the best-selling pop group of all time, with some claiming the band was the 2nd biggest Swedish export of the 1970s after Volvo. Agnetha sang the lead on several of ABBA's biggest hits, including Chiquitita, Gimme Gimme Gimme, Happy New Year, Lay All Your Love on Me, and of course, The Winner Takes It All. She shared the lead with Frida on other iconic songs like Dancing Queen, Don't Shut Me Down, Mamma Mia, The Name of the Game, and Voulez-Vous. The combination of Frida and Agnetha's voices turned out to be magic, creating the so-called 3rd ABBA voice. While Frida had a mezzo-soprano voice, Agnetha was a soprano with a crystal-clear voice, which allowed it to prevail when singing higher together. Agnetha truly excelled at high notes, which seemed to come out effortlessly with a tonal quality that's hard to match. Her voice is a combination of soft yet powerful, which results from the effortless way she seems to sing combined with the emotion she puts in every song. This emotion in her voice shouldn't come as a surprise if we take a look at her personality. They go hand in hand. In interviews, she was often very demure, while in music videos and live performances, she was perfect to represent someone who's been hurt, a hopeless romantic still fighting for love, or someone longing for how things used to be, a melancholic. But this wasn't necessarily just a stage persona, as a glimpse into the real Agnetha. Not only was she shy and reserved generally as a person, but she also suffered pretty much her entire life from anxiety. Her most notorious fear is that of flying, which became worse during the 1979 North American tour, when the band's plane was short of fuel, hit a tornado, and had to perform an emergency landing. As a result, during her solo career, she rarely flew, going years without approaching an airplane. This meant that, in order to promote her records or hold a concert, she traveled by bus, which made touring more exhausting and last longer. She was involved in an accident in 1983 when her tour bus overturned and left her badly bruised and concussed. Agnetha also has a fear of heights, of crowds and open spaces, and stage fright. As you can imagine, this made touring a nightmare for her, which only got worse as she had to be away from her children. Furthermore, her anxiety made her feel like the shouting, hysterical fans were out to get her, to harm her. Due to all of this and her reluctance of embracing the life of a pop star, Agnetha retired in a small Swedish town with a population of about 11,000 people. She has been nicknamed Garbo II by the Swedish media due to her apprehension of being a celebrity, and instead embracing a more solitary life away from the spotlight. Of course, we can't talk about Anna without mentioning her looks. Tall, beautiful, with a pleasant figure, blue eyes and blonde hair, she got everybody's attention, and if you think she's the perfect woman, you wouldn't be the only one. One particular aspect that received plenty of attention over the years, much to her displeasure, is her bum, with many publications over the 70s and 80s naming it as the sexiest one around. But there was an incident which almost shattered her image in the eyes of the public and affected her deeply. At the turn of the century, it was revealed that Agnetha had a stalker who was her ex-boyfriend and an obsessed fan. Gert became infatuated with Agnetha when he saw her perform Waterloo at the Eurovision Song Contest when he was a child. In the mid-90s, he moved to Sweden from the Netherlands and started turning up at Agnetha's house. She complained to the police, but eventually, despite knowing he's obsessed with her, she started dating him. The two were together for 2 years, with Anna saying she couldn't resist the intense attention. The two broke up in 1999, but he continued to stalk her for years, despite being banned from Sweden. While the initial public reaction was basically, why was she dating an obsessed fan? In later years, people have changed their opinion and understood Agnetha was vulnerable, especially after the passing of her parents. In the early 80s, she also dated her psychiatrist and later the detective who was assigned to the case after Anna received threats that someone wanted to kidnap her children. Her second marriage to a surgeon between 1990 and 1993 was kept a secret, and the public only found out about it when the two divorced. But all of that pales in comparison to the love story between Agnetha and Bjorn. The two met in the late 60s and married in 1971. For years, they were the image of the perfect couple, posing happy for pictures with their 2 children. Sadly, the couple separated in early 1979 and divorced in July of 1980. A week later, Bjorn had a new girlfriend. He always claimed that the separation was quote-unquote a happy divorce, but Agnetha later denied this. She felt quote-unquote mangled by the experience and had to go to counseling to recover. In her 1997 autobiography, she declared, quote-unquote, "We always told the media that it was a happy divorce, which of course was a front. There are no such things as happy divorces, especially when there are children involved." This experience led to Bjorn writing the heartbreaking song "The Winner Takes It All." Bjorn again denied the connection between their separation and the song, but later Agnetha said what we all knew all along. The song was about them. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, maybe subscribe. I have videos about the other ABBA members, so you can check them out as well. Take care.